Cloninger moves on in, and he scores!
Gonna learn today.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest installment of the Pod Street Bullies. Folks, my name is Derek Bob.
And I'm John Gove. What's going on, everybody?
Guys, and we have a treat for you. We have a very special guest with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce our friend here, the stats man behind Pod Street Bullies. This is Connor Bolgard. Connor, tell everybody, how's it going?
He's a stats man. He's the number guy.
The number guy. Numbers, stats, they bleed in with me. I apologize. Connor is our numbers guy. He does the cap crunching. He is much smarter than the both of us, as you can probably already tell. So, without further ado, Connor, please introduce yourself. Tell us where we can find you on Twitter, my friend.
How we doing, boys? Connor Bolgard here. You can find me on Twitter at Connor Bolgard. If you need spelling, just we can figure that out. But happy to be here.
Awesome, dude. We are happy to have you. I can tell you that. I guess, what do you think, man? You want to dive right in and start with this?
Yo,
Sure.
Let's do it, man.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
So, do you want me to start chronologically? So we'll. All right. So, the first one that happened pretty recently was Travis Sanheim signing that deal with the Flyers. He signed a 2-year, $3.25 million deal. That's per year. That was on June 24th. And at that point, the Flyers then had $18.15 million in cap space left. Then that same day, they went in and traded restricted free agent Ryan Hartman, who's a 24-year-old winger, to Dallas for center Tyler Pitlick, 27 years old. Pitlick has 1 year left on a $1 million deal. Gives him a little bit more cap flexibility for the year. They end up with $17.15 million. Side note, Hartman did not receive a qualifying offer from Dallas and signed with Minnesota today. Then the day after that, Chuck Fletcher submitted qualifying offers for Ivan Provorov, Travis Konechny, Scott Lawton, and Nicholas Kubel. The day after that, they signed Brian Elliott, goaltender, 34 years old, to a 1-year deal, $2 million. And they had $15.15 million in cap space left. And as we all know, Moose has been playing with the Flyers for the past couple of years. We'll see how that turns out. We know he's all injury prone, but I think he could be a good mentor to Carter Hart. Then a couple days later, they took a break for a little bit. It's June 30th. They decide they want to buy out David Schlemko, 32-year-old defenseman. He's got 1 year left at $2.1 million. The cap hit, when they bought him out, it brings it to he gets a $900,000 cap hit for this year, and then the next year he gets a $600,000 cap hit. It's kind of an odd move by Fletcher. They could have buried his contract down in the AHL, and it would just be a $1.25 million cap hit, but it saves us $125,000 for now, and that brought the cap to $15.27 million.
So $15.27 million left to play around with. But having these moves be made, we're going to go back through these moves real quick.
Stop. Hold on a second. Connor just proved that we don't need to be here.
You're right. I mean,
No.
we know the caps
like
now.
A minute and a half. You had a minute and a half soliloquy right there and just went, "I am the Pod Street Bully. You guys can leave."
Well, if it weren't for the fact that I'm holding the recording right now,
I was ready.
You're right. And I think it makes it easy for us because now we know how much money we had leading into today, and now I kind of want to revisit each of these moves that we made, starting with the Sanheim move, the 2-year, $3.25 million per. Connor, in your opinion, is this a good move for the Flyers? I guess fiscally.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we all probably would have preferred to have Sanheim sign longer term because we all understand the potential he has, and he honestly could potentially pass Provorov on the depth chart within the next year or two. But who knows at this point? I mean, You get him on a bridge deal, $3.25 million, and the way that the remaining contracts are turning out for what they're expecting with Provorov and Konechny and Lawton to get, it's really the only option they had. They're really strapped for cash at this point after getting Hayes, Braun, and Niskanen, and then re-signing Moose. So, I mean, I like the deal personally. I don't know about you guys.
It works out in the long term. And John, I guess you've got a couple points here. You want to go across a little bit here too as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think the bridge deal is great for Sanheim. I think that it's a chance for him to prove that he's even better than the money that they're giving him now, and he can really cash in the next time around. I also think short term, it's great for the Flyers because it gives them a little bit more money to play with. Long term, it stinks because they're going to have to pay this guy big time the next contract.
Yeah, but by the time they lose by the time Sanheim plays this contract out, Niskanen will have played his out as well, along with the cap hit from McDonald being bought out. So we'll have some extra cash to play with when we need to resign Sanheim to his ultimate big deal, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so moving on next to the Hartman-Pitlick trade here, everything else aside with the fact that Hartman didn't know about this and what's happened now, what's your take on this, Connor? Like, what do you think about this move?
That was insane. I mean, his mom was just tweeting like, "Hey, he still has no idea what's going on," and everyone just like, "Hey, by the way, bud, you've been traded and then you got released, so sucks to suck on your vacation." Seems like he's gonna be happy in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think he will be too.
Yeah. And I don't know much about Pitlick. He seems like, I know he was injured last year. He played, like 50 to 40 games or something like that, and he seems all right. I think he had like half the points Hartman did, but, stinks to lose Hartman. He was a good young winger and kind of makes the Wayne Simmons trade at this point. We're basically only got a fifth-rounder now, which kind of stinks to think about, but
yeah.
He wasn't going to get great opportunity with all the prospects they have.
Yeah. No, I think that this was just a cap move. Hartman went for almost 2?
1.9
in Minnesota? Yeah. Yeah, so this is just a cap move. I've said it before. I would have loved to see the fourth line with Raffl, Lawton, and Hartman, but womp womp, not going to happen.
Yeah. Now, I guess moving on here, too, to the qualifying offers, Provorov, Konechny, Lawton, and Aube-Kubel have qualifying offers. Jacob Graves and Justin Bailey have not received qualifying offers. Do any of those shock you at all, John?
Justin Bailey a little bit. I thought maybe he earned his keep, but it was more of just an overall fit. There's just a lot of youth coming at the forward position. He was a in-betweener. I don't think they really needed him at this point, so I wouldn't say it shocked me, but he was the only one where I was like, oh, man, that stinks for him, but...
Do any of these moves shock you at all, Connor?
Not really. Just like John said, Bailey, I kind of expected him to be on the team next year since we traded for him. It kind of seems like Fletcher's just, wheeling and dealing. He got Hartman and Bailey one of his first couple moves, and now they're just off the team. And same with Schlemko, too.
Yeah. I think it's at least a good start to try to get some of these younger guys signed with Provorov, Konechny, Lawton. I think Lawton and Aube-Kubel are going to get re-signed, I'm pretty sure. I have a good feeling about that because they'll be cheaper. The Provorov situation, we'll see. It's going to be tricky. So I guess moving on then to the next point here, we've got Brian Elliott re-signing for 1 year at $2 million per. Connor, good move, bad move? What do you think, man?
Who? There's 2 of us now.
I said Connor.
No, you didn't.
I definitely
did he say Connor?
I didn't hear Connor, but
yeah,
see, you guys now I don't like this. You're ganging up on me. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. This is the Pod Street Bully podcast now.
I'm staying in Switzerland.
All right, so Connor, go ahead, man. Tell us what you think about it.
I'm kind of indifferent about it. Talbot and Elliott, Talbot in the past has been very strong, and I know he's younger than Elliott, I think. And, Elliott's been injured all the time. So I know they were both good options, but I think Talbot got, 2.75 today from Yeah, who was it? And then, I mean,
Calgary.
yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, we're just saving as much cap as they can, it seems like, at this point. And, I think Elliott will be a decent backup to Hart, and it'll be all right.
And John.
Yes. Oh,
What?
see, you said my name there.
There you go.
I love this move. I love this move. I mean, I think that Brian Elliott, he had injury problems, but that was because he was run into the freaking ground by Dave Haxtell.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case here. Even if he's the 1B, he's not going to be put in situations where he's starting back to back. And when he was healthy, he played well. So I think this is the perfect role for him. I think it's at a good price. I really like this move.
I agree. I think that if Vino can handle his goalies much better than Dave Haxtell, which isn't, saying too much, I think this is a really good position for Elliott to be in, given, his injury-played quote-unquote status and the fact that he's getting up there in age. But he's proven to be a very successful goaltender in this league, especially when he splits time, when he did with Jake Allen in St. Louis. I mean, he was phenomenal. So I think it's a good move, too. Now seeing Talbot signing for $750K more, I think it's an even better move. So then to the last point to talk about here, we've got the David Schlemko buyout. For me, at least, not much I can say about this other than I was a bit surprised. But, if we're crunching numbers and trying to stay under the cap and save up some money, it makes sense. John, what do you think, man?
Well, I mean, Connor kind of said it before. It's puzzling because if they just kept him in the AHL, they wouldn't have had to pay so much. I mean, what was the exact number on that again, Connor?
He's got a $2.1 million deal. They bought him out. And then if they buried it, it would have dropped his contract down to $1.25 million.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know.
So they're saving, I mean, a little bit of money as far as cap tip. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just makes you think that something bigger was going to happen. And then, I mean, something bigger did happen, which we're going to talk about now. They went crazy at free agency today.
Yeah, they did. I mean, signed 8 guys. I've never heard of any of them before. No disrespect to any of them. Just, not really in the AHL player game.
I mean, well, that's kind of, Derek, I mean, why don't we start kind of breaking these guys down one at a time, huh?
I agree. I think a good place to start is the hometown boy with Kyle Criscuolo. What do you think?
Me? Or Connor?
John.
Well, Connor said you don't really know too much about him, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be honest, too. I don't know a ton about these guys either. I just have a few stats I pulled. But, like, from a cap standpoint, Connor, a lot of these deals, just kind of glossing over them, none of them are really substantial when it comes to a cap hit. There's $700K, $750K, $700, $700, $750, a lot of little chips at the cap, but it helps restock the cupboard down in Lehigh Valley. So, I guess if you're going to give us an overall take like on how the Flyers did with their cap situation with these guys, what do you think, man?
I mean, they like you said, they did a good job filling it. They had They had 3 defensemen signed before today for the AHL roster, and now they filled out an actual D core, which would be nice. And they're not young guys. I mean, 27, 26, 24, 26, 26, 28, 33, and almost all of them were 2-way deals, 1 or 2 years. The only one that was a one-way deal was Andy Walensky, which is a bit interesting. So they're going to have to bury his contract in the AHL if he's going to be playing there. And obviously, if they call him up, it'll affect the cap in the NHL. But he'll be on waivers if they send him back down or something like that. Or if they had to call him up and then send him back down, which is a bit interesting. And then,
I hate to be the correction guy to you, Connor, because that's just not fair. You come onto the show and I'm going to correct you. But this is what I do on the show. I correct Derek. I also believe Andreoff was a one-way deal.
Okay. Yeah. No.
I think he's a 2-year one-way contract.
Okay.
Oh,
so that's 2 guys. I mean,
well, actually,
but he's an interesting one too. He's an interesting one though because he is somebody who could be a 4th liner. He's got NHL experience. Last year was kind of his first like only AHL type year. If I can remember from the 5 minutes I looked at Hockey DB before this podcast. So this is an interesting one. I mean, I really hope he doesn't take up a roster spot in the NHL, but who knows?
Yeah, I want to see Morgan Frost play.
Oh
Right.
my gosh,
Me too, brother.
that
Especially
goal,
with how much he bulked up.
180 now.
You two are talking at the same time. I don't know who's speaking.
This is Derek right now, and I just stated that Morgan Frost is up to about 180 pounds, I believe. And I also want to throw in there that his shootout goal from the development camp made me hoot and holler like I've never hoot and hollered before. That was phenomenal. You guys know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And you said something too, Connor. What did you say?
I mean, that shootout goal was awesome. He bulked up to 187. I saw, and I mean, he was like 170-ish last year at developmental camp. So that's a pretty substantial gain. And I mean, I know we talked a couple days earlier, and we were like, who do you think would make it out of the three of Ratcliffe, Farabee, and Frost? And we kind of all guessed Farabee, but it kind of seems like Frost has got 10 to 15 pounds on Farabee, and we all know that's kind of a big deal when you got 19 and 20-year-old kids playing the NHL. So I think it might be Frost at this point.
To be fair, you two said Farabee.
Yes.
I did not say Farabee. I've been on the Frost train for a while, and I mean, it could be either of those guys, but I think Morgan Frost is going to be the one who makes it. But that's a conversation for a different time. We are not giving these guys their due here, the new Philadelphia Flyers / Lehigh Valley Phantom guys.
Yeah. So let's quick do this. I guess in order, let's talk about each of these guys with you, Connor.
Just rattle them off a little bit, brother. I mean, if there's something to pause on, we can talk, but I would just rattle them off until there's something to talk about.
Yeah,
agreed.
I'm going to botch these names, so get ready.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Andy Andreoff, forward, 28 years old. He signed a two-year, one-way deal for $750K. Curtis Gabriel, 26-year-old right winger. He signs a 1-year, two-way deal for $700K.
And
he's got some NHL experience too.
I'm going to stop you
go
quick.
For it, brother.
This is the same individual that boarded Nolan Patrick earlier this year. I don't like him. I don't like him at all.
Oh.
But he's going to be in the AHL. He's going to be in the AHL, so who cares?
But what are you doing signing people like that? Like, I mean, I have a big problem with that. That's a bad penalty.
Snot and balls, baby. Snot and balls.
You could have really screwed with Nolan Patrick's career. Don't bring him on the team.
It's adversity.
Maybe Konechny, since Patrick and Konechny are his boys, he could have said, all right, Fletcher, I'll take a little bit less. You sign this guy, Patrick and I, we get a little 2-on-1 in the locker room with them real quick, and then we'll fix things out like men and figure it out from there.
Well, Konechny's not signed yet, so maybe he's replacing. Replacing Konechny.
Oh man,
that's a bold statement to make right there.
That is not a rumor.
No,
that is a John Gove bomb.
That's a take.
John Gove bomb.
That's a terrible take. I'll tell you now, it's a terrible take. So, moving on after Gabriel, who you got, Connor?
Nate Prosser, I think his name is Prosser.
Prosser.
Right-handed defenseman, 33 years old.
Minnesota boy.
Oh man, Chuck. I don't even want to get started on that and all these players that he's already touched before. It's scaring me.
Listen,
but
he has criteria. Connor.
Yeah,
he's got criteria. They've either got to have some sort of Minnesota connection, or their name has to have alliteration. Those are the two things he's going after. If you don't have that, he's not interested.
I can't wait for some of these guys to get called up.
Keith Jones is going to have a fun time pronouncing these names.
Oh, man.
Keith Jackson, I should say.
Fine.
But just a quick note on Prosser. I mean, he could be like a seventh defenseman if they needed it, which they don't, but he could be.
He'll be a solid AHLer.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Good for him. Next.
Andy Walensky. Right-handed defenseman. He's 26 years old. Signed a way 1 year deal for $750K.
You got that Crickets thing?
Crickets. Hold on a second. Hold on. Yep, there it is. There it is.
A lot of these guys. I'm like, okay.
All right, so yeah, good old Walensky. Next.
Tyler Wotherspoon. What a name.
I know, really. They couldn't go Witherspoon and make it easier for everybody. Dare to be different, Tyler. Dare to be different.
2019.
I mean,
26-year-old left-handed defenseman signs 2 years, two-way, $700K. I don't know like playing.
I want to pause for a second and talk to the listeners. I know it seems like we don't care about these guys. It's kind of because we don't at this point. There's really not a whole lot to talk about. So we're just having a little bit of fun.
John doesn't care. John doesn't care about the Lehigh Valley Phantoms team. Let me make that clear.
Well,
I
no,
care.
I don't care. I don't care about the veteran type people on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. The Lehigh Valley Phantoms is a developmental team. Don't make me stand up. They are a developmental team. You don't need to put these chuckleheads on the roster. Sorry, Wotherspoon.
No, I agree.
All right, off your soapbox.
Sorry. So next.
Oh, man, I love this name. Jean-Francois Berube, goalie, 27 years old.
Any relation to the Chief?
I know, right? I guess they're righting their wrongs, and after letting go of Berube and just signing the goat Hackstall, they're yeah.
Yeah, Derek, you've got some opinions on this.
Why do we need a goalie? Why? And a guy like this, a journeyman goalie from the AHL, like that doesn't make sense to me. I don't like it.
I would have rather them kept the guy that we just had, McKenna.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, at least he's got a podcast. Come on, McKenna, hit us up.
Yeah, he could actually finally, be settled.
Jesus.
The guy's been traveling for so long. I mean, he's been on
Yes.
darn near every team there is in hockey, so the man deserves to
He's
settle
like-
down somewhere.
He's that Johnny Cash song. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere. Been Lehigh Valley, Manitoba, Ottawa, Binghamton.
That's your daily dose of John Gove, the best, the essentials. So, next.
The last one. Who is he?
Chris Bigris. He's a right-handed defenseman, 24 years old, 2 years, two-way deal, $700K. Bit younger, which is nice. I mean, he could be a good piece for the future, maybe. And I don't really know much about his statistics or where he's been playing, but it kind of seemed like they're signing a bunch of older veterans that maybe put an impression on the locker room for the younger guys, since they have a ton of guys coming up to the pros this year from recent draft picks. And I guess I just wanted, even out the old and young in the locker room, get a veteran presence.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on it, but this doesn't do anything really as far as funds, right? This doesn't put any pressure on the RFAs or anything like that. We still got plenty of room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's the perks of the two-way deals. I mean, they don't touch waivers, and then you're just jumping back and forth and without any implications on the cap. It really, I think it just, I could find it on some of them, like their AHL salaries. I know a lot of them have NHL and AHL, like Jean-Francois Berube. If he's in the NHL, he's getting paid $700K, but when he's in the AHL, he's only making $425, and only that's a
only 425.
I'd like to only make 425.
I'll take a few slap shots for that.
Yeah. Just be the guy that Frost angles in practice and makes the social media highlight videos.
He can make me look stupid any day of the week.
Connor, I have one more question before you go.
Sure.
Do the Philadelphia 76ers have enough room to sign Kawhi Leonard?
No.
Get off now. Goodbye.
All right.
I'm kidding. No, you saw the tweet we put out where we're officially on board the train that's trying to get Kawhi Leonard to come to Philadelphia, because Flyers Twitter is enough for us with the pissing and moaning. I don't want to deal with Sixers Twitter being insufferable like with the rest of us. Yeah. So I guess really to sum things up, Connor, I need a yes or no.
Yes.
These moves that have been made today, good or bad? Yes or no? Or I should say, are they good? Yes or no?
I'd say they're good. I mean, it fills up the roster and, gives the young guys a voice and can learn from them, learn how to be pros in the NHL and that stuff. So I'm cool with it.
All right. I agree. What do you think, John? If you care about the Lehigh Valley Phantoms.
Honestly, if it wasn't as many of them, I'd be all right with it. But to me, this provides a lot more questions than answers. Because now we have 4,000 goalies and 6,000 defensemen.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell are we going to do with all these guys? We didn't need Berube. And you know what? We didn't need all these defensive AHLers either, because if you signed people like Wyatt Wiley and Hogberg and Bernhardt, they could play in Lehigh Valley. And guess what they could do, boys? Develop.
Mm-hmm.
Just more stuff for John to write about.
Yeah, exactly. Am I mad about them? No. I mean, how am I going to get mad about any of these guys? There's nothing to be mad at. They're not. It's not like they're being signed for $5 million. But at the same time, I'm just like, you're taking up spots of young players in the AHL, and I just don't think that's necessary. It's almost like, and I'm sorry that I'm rambling here, but it's almost like Chuck Fletcher is doing this. He's like, I want to put my imprint on the team without taking away what Ron Hextall did. So I'm going to go in my philosophy and bring in all these older guys, but I'm also going to keep all these younger guys here because that's Ron's thing, and the fans kind of liked Ron's thing. So I'm just going to keep them here. But what was he going to do with them?
Yeah.
Chucky 2 trades becomes Chucky 20 trades.
Chucky 2 trades.
I'm a little worried that Chuck Fletcher is like me in those NHL games, because I don't think I can go through 10 NHL 19 games without making a trade, because it's just like something you got to do. It's fun. I feel like that's Chuck Fletcher in real life.
Complacency. I think that's his plague.
He just wakes up, who am I going to trade for today?
That reminds me of something, guys. I remember I submitted a question a few weeks ago about my guy Tyson Barrie. And I don't know who said this, but they said it was it's like we're playing NHL 19 on medium level trading in franchise mode.
That was John.
And he got traded today, and it wasn't the biggest package in the world. I mean, it's probably a rental. There's no way the Leafs are going to have cap space for him next year, probably. I mean, I know what they have, only one defenseman left. I think it's O'Reilly for next year after this year with contracts.
Muzzin.
Yeah. Okay.
John's favorite defenseman from the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, yeah. Love me some Muzzin. First of all, Connor, you forgot to read the fine print of the agreement of you coming on here. You never called me out. Okay. Second of all, the answer for this is they decided to turn on the medium setting in the trades department.
Especially with some of those contracts they handed out. I mean, Aho getting 8.2, 8.4, that's not bad.
You're right.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's pretty wild. But,
it is.
I mean, we'll see. Back to these moves, it is what it is,
Yeah. I think that's, honestly, you're just filling the AHL at this point. And the guys that they chose, I think, are going to serve a viable role. But, they play hockey, and when we watch, we'll find out whether they will or not.
Yeah.
So, Connor, I want to thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the podcast today. We've had you be a part, I guess, without having you actually on here for a few weeks now. So can you tell us all again, in case somebody here missed the first 3-4 minutes? I don't know why they missed the first 3 or 4 minutes, but can you please tell us again where we can find you on Twitter, man?
Sure. It's at Connor Bolgard. That's with an O, 2 N's, and then it's at ConnorBolgard. That's my Twitter. I'm always tweeting, bigger moves about the Flyers, updates on the cap space, and then, just big deals around the league. Flyers got $14.97 million left to play with to sign Provorov, Konechny, Lawton, and Nicholas Aube-Kubel if they sign all four of those guys. But it'll be interesting to see how Fletcher plays it out for the rest. And love being a part of it. And thanks for having me on, guys. I'm looking forward to continue working with you guys.
Thanks for coming on, Connor.
Yeah,
Okay,
Connor.
have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
brother.
See you.
I'm going to say this now, and I'll thank Connor for this profusely later. We haven't even had to reach out to Connor, and he'll give us these numbers. Like, it's crazy.
First of all, we never had to reach out to Connor to even start this. Like, he just volunteered. It's just amazing to see that level of enthusiasm in this.
Oh, yeah, and the way he just rattled those numbers off for us, man, like, that guy knows his stuff, man. Like, more so than us.
Yeah, smart kid.
Yeah, a very,
Smart kid.
Very intelligent. So if we're going to kind of continue with this, just one last quick point. Are you satisfied with the moves made on the first day of free agency, John?
Well, do you want to maybe broaden that and just go, like, this is the Flyers' offseason moves? I mean, barring something crazy.
Yeah.
And say, am I satisfied with the whole shebang?
Yeah, if these are the only moves that Chuck Fletcher makes all offseason, are you satisfied?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know what else he could have done at this point. He addressed the 2C. He addressed the backup goalie. He addressed the defense. I mean, whether or not it works out, we'll have to wait and see. And I like that he left that third wing position open for a prospect to take.
I
guess I'm satisfied.
I feel like that roster spot being quote unquote open could almost be like a tease where like he's getting everybody's hopes up, like, oh, Frost Farabee, Ratcliffe, one of those guys is taking that spot, but then like 3 weeks before the season starts, it's like, oh, the Flyers have traded for or signed this guy, and it's like, oh, Chucky, you son of a gun. You know what I mean?
I mean, that would be just vintage Chuck to just do it when no one else is doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's a player that's, a better option, I'm fine with. It's just when it turns into like the Dale Weisses of the world where I'm going to get a little frustrated.
Long gone are those days, and I hope that's right. Good Lord. Ugh. I shudder when I think about it.
Yeah. But I think he did what he had to do, and now it's up to the players and the coaches.
You're right. Absolutely. So we're going to move on from those signings today. We're going to move on to some other signings, just real like key signings. We know about the trade between Toronto and the Colorado Avalanche, but we've got one of the biggest names, if not the biggest name on the market. Artemi Panarin ended up with the Rangers, Metro Division rival. I know. I'm though, as good of a player as he is, the Rangers just aren't at that level that they scare me just yet. Even with adding Trouba,
yeah,
I'm still not scared.
No, I mean, scared is definitely not the word. I mean, a few years down the road, when Capo Caco reaches his full potential, maybe we're talking a different story. But also at that point, you don't know what Panarin's going to look like, what Trouba's going to look like. But it's interesting because this is a team that only last year, was it last year or the year before, said that they were going to be rebuilding.
I think it was 2 years ago, maybe. No, last year, because that was when they hired Dave Quinn.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's like, and they're already making these big moves, and putting them in with the younger guys. And it's like, as Flyers fans, we've been doing this forever.
Yeah, it hurts as a Flyers fan to see this happen when surely these moves could have been made by Chuck Fletcher, according to Flyers Twitter, at least.
Well, I wouldn't, the thing is, though, is I wouldn't even put it on him. I'm putting it on Hextall. I think that Hextall had just a really weird philosophy that he was just going to keep gathering youth, and it would take a really long time, but the whole philosophy would pan out because even though it took 10 years, when all of these players matured, they would turn into a dynasty. And
Right.
like it just doesn't work that way.
No, it's not. It's not like NHL 19. It doesn't happen like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just like I feel like the Rangers are taking a much more balanced approach, understanding they're in a big market and they're not going to sell tickets with random guys on the ice. And Panarin and Trouba are only going to help jumpstart the rebuild, especially when they have a goalie who's 100 years old.
Yeah, their window in goal is becoming increasingly smaller. Not to say Lundqvist is getting, he's still one of the best goalies in the game. Will always be one of the more established and just all around great goalies to play in hockey in all of the NHL. But the moves, I guess I shouldn't have said they scare me, but I'm not concerned with them yet. Like you said, Kakko's going to start rounding out. Buchnevich is, getting his footing down. They signed Trouba to a long-term deal. They've got Panarin, man. It could be a tough go for the Flyers if they don't get better as these years come rolling by.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. But they weren't the only ones to make moves, man.
You're right, and this is another team that kind of falls into that category as well, where somewhere down the line, probably sooner than the Rangers, they're scaring me a little more. The New Jersey Devils announced a signing today that really struck a chord with a lot of Flyers fans. Not the Metro team that we all thought he was going to, but
Right, and it's better.
It is a little bit. He's closer, but Wayne Simmons is a New Jersey Devil, ladies and gentlemen. 1 year, $5 million. Wayne Simmons, again, is a New Jersey Devil.
Yup.
You know what? Give me a second here. Like, the womp womp sound is really the only sound that can summarize my feelings for this, because not because I'm upset he didn't come back to the Flyers, but because he came to a division rival and someone like the Devils,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really scare me that much anymore, considering last year. I mean, part of me would love to go, hey, Wayne, I hope you have a turnaround, but now I don't. I'm sorry.
If he'd have went back to Nashville, if he would have went out west, if he would have went to even an Atlantic Division team, I'd be like, okay,
Right.
I hope he can rebound, earn that $5 million, have a really nice year, cash in next year too. Now it's like he can have a phenomenal year, but those 4 times that he plays the Flyers, I don't want him on the score sheet at all.
Right.
I hope they give him a great video tribute, which I'm sure they will. I hope everybody in the Wells Fargo Center stands and applauds him, tips their cap to him, because he deserves it, and rightfully so for everything
sure.
he's given this franchise. I just don't want him scoring against the Flyers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree 100%, man.
And this actually is a great segue, since we're talking free agency and what could happen during free agency. Another great segue into our Wait What segment.
What the?
This is John Gove's brainchild. This is a segment where we take a story, a tweet, a happening that has happened, and our reaction is exactly what the title of this segment is. Like, wait, what? So, with it tying into free agency, I'll begin with mine. Today, ladies and gentlemen, there was an offer sheet. And the offer sheet was signed by the player that it was offered to. Sebastian Aho of the Carolina Hurricanes signed an offer sheet from the Montreal Canadiens. Now, it's not that the specific signing of the offer sheet that had me thinking, wait, what? Because I kind of anticipated one to be signed. It's the fact that this is a 5-year deal, $42.27 million. Averages out to a little over $8 million, probably 8.5. Good for him. Still not a, oh man, I can't believe you got that much money. This is where it got me. The first year of this contract, the maximum dollar amount of a signing bonus allowed in the NHL is being offered to this man. Now, with the signing bonus and the average, the cap hit, the salary he'll make, Sebastian Aho could potentially will actually make $21 million for the 2019-2020 season. Folks, that is more than Connor McDavid. That is more than Austin Matthews. That is more than any of the top players in the NHL that you can think of. Doughty, Carlson, Panarin, all the guys that signed today. It's almost double what those guys make.
I know. I was going to say, you could take maybe two of those and combine it.
Yeah. You could pay Doughty and Carlson just over what Sebastian Aho is going to make this next coming up year. Which, oh my God. And this is all I should say. It's according to Sportsnet's Chris Johnston, the source for that story here. But good God. Like, that's a preposterous amount of money being thrown at this guy. And he's 21, 22?
I'll tell you, though, pretty freaking genius. You want somebody, and it's like, we have the cap space this year. We might as well just make it impossible for the other team to sign him.
This is what Philadelphia did with Shea Weber. If you remember back then when they signed Shea Weber to the offer sheet, they front-loaded it. Great idea.
Right.
But you're Nashville. You're not giving up your franchise defenseman. So that really screwed them. And it's funny, too. I should point out, later after this all happened, the Carolina Hurricanes Twitter account actually sent out a poll, and they go, will we match the offer sheet for Sebastian Aho? And there were two choices. First choice, yes. Second choice, oui, which is French, the language that they speak in Montreal, for yes.
Yep.
Carolina is going to match this offer sheet. There's no questions about it, especially now given that tweet that they sent out. I mean...
Right. I mean, it just kind of straps him for this season, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's actually a very friendly deal after that.
It is. And let's be honest, too, Carolina has about $22.6 million in cap space right now. So they could sign him, but they don't have any more money to sign anybody else. They locked up Mrazek earlier today as well. They got, I believe it was Semyon Varlamov is going. No, Varlamov's not going there. I apologize.
No, he's going to the Islanders.
Yeah. There was another goalie they signed. I can't remember who. But Carolina's going to be strapped for cap this year. Like, it's just, that's how it's going to be. But that's what it takes to retain a guy like Aho.
But, boys and girls, this is how rivalries are formed.
This is a thing of beauty. This is going to be an interesting game when they play.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not just the players now. This is the brass. They just are going to hate Montreal now. I love it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I hate that Montreal's the one that did this because I can't stand the Habs to begin with, and I don't like giving them credit ever. But this was just a brilliant move.
It is. Phenomenal move on Montreal's part. So, bravo. I don't know French, but way to go, folks. John,
bravo.
Yes, bravo.
Yeah.
So, John, hit me with your wait what, my man?
Yeah, so mine is a situation, but I'll also bring in a tweet to help us. It's the Jay O'Brien thing. So Jay O'Brien, as far as we knew, was leaving Providence College and committed to the Penticton Vs of the BCHL. I mean, Penticton was really excited to have him. Seemed like that was going to just be the path. Then there's like this little wrinkle in developmental camp. All right, and this is from Jordan Hall. It's a tweet from Jordan Hall, but it's saying that Brent Flair said Jay O'Brien could go to Boston University this season. It's being figured out, but has nothing to do with the Flyers. So essentially what that's saying is maybe he's not going to the BCHL. Maybe he's going to go to college and just play for a different college. He'll play for Boston University. This kid has not even signed his entry-level deal in Philadelphia, and he's already becoming a headache. I mean, first of all, probably shouldn't have been drafted in the first round. Sorry, Jay. Second of all, he's acting like a diva. I mean, you'd have to imagine that this rumor has some sort of weight if Brett Flair is going to say it, right?
Yeah.
Right? I
It's
was
got
gonna
to have
say.
some kind of substantial weight to it.
Right. I mean, Jay O'Brien then goes and says, no, none of this is true. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm committed to Penticton. If that's the case, if it is some sort of rumor, I'm sorry, Jay. I hope you forgive me. But if he ends up going to Boston, it's just like, what are you doing, man? This is just a situation that shouldn't be happening at this point. You're a prospect. You're trying to earn your way to the NHL. You're having a few bumps in the road. The last thing you need to be doing is creating a headache.
Yeah. And he may be doing it unintentionally because, like we've stated on here before, we would have liked to see him against better competition. Well, playing at the college that he wants to play at is going to present him likelier better competition than playing in the BCHL. And that's no slight on the BCHL, but it's pretty well documented.
But then what it means, though, Derek, is that he was just unhappy at Providence, which probably means he thought he deserved more playing time or something along those lines. I don't know.
It's another headache.
It's just a headache.
Yeah. We'll see where he plays. I guess we'll figure it out on the first day of either season. I guess. I don't know.
At this point, I hope he goes to Penticton.
He made his commitment. I think that he needs to honor that, and that would be a big impact on his character as well.
For sure.
Yeah. So, folks, that was our Wait What segment. I hope you enjoyed it. And now we get to our favorite part, the question, Q&As, baby. We need to figure out a sound bite for this too. I like playing around with the sound bites. It's too much fun. I will preface this by saying some of these questions were asked before events happened on the Flyers timeline, so we'll kind of discount that and try to roll with it. But we'll see how this goes. The first question comes. What's that? John.
I didn't say anything, brother.
You didn't say anything. Okay. My apologies.
No.
We're going to keep this rolling. The first question comes from Chadley. And Chadley asks, who would you take in a three-way battle to the death for a roster spot? Sam Morin, David Schlemko, or Robert Haig? This is the first question. This is, I should say, most recent question we got. We're going to go down from most recent to least recent. Morin versus Schlemko versus Haig. John Gove. John Gove. Still can't hear me. Here's what I'm going to say. Schlemko is not a factor right now. He's been bought out. So between a guy like Sam Morin and a guy like Robert Haig, who would win in a battle to the death for a roster spot, 10 out of 10 times, I'm going Sam Morin. That guy's huge. You're going to pick Robert Haig over Sam Morin? Like, cut me a break. Come on. Hello. Did you get that? John?
I didn't get anything. Honestly, man, your connection, and it might be even because of me, I'm not sure what's going on, but you're really choppy.
All right, well, if you can hear me now, this is what I'm going to propose to you. And this is a question from Chadley. He asks, who would you take in a three-way battle to the death for a spot on the Flyers? Sam Morin, David Schlemko, or Robert Haig?
Oh, Morin.
Yeah, so we're in unison there. Next question. This comes from No Senor Whitworth. He asks, what's left on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms defense, and what should fans expect from that group next year? Now, we've touched on this. So, John, what do you think, man?
Well, I mean, now we know that it's full of veterans. I mean, I don't know if veterans the word, but guys who are established at this point. What can you expect from them? I don't know. Just stale, established AHL play. Yeah,
I think we talked about this a little bit before we started recording here. I really do think that a guy like Morin or Haig, whoever ends up being kind of like the odd man out, may end up being on the Phantoms to begin the year. It's not to say that they couldn't break the NHL roster, but when you're thinking about it, it's the numbers game. You've got a lot of NHL defensemen up there, so you could see them down there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and especially in Morin's case, because he would not do anybody any favors, including himself, just sitting in the press box. So if he doesn't make that top 6, which I'm really not convinced he's going to, he should be in the AHL.
You're right, absolutely. So then we're going to go to our next question here. Another one from Chadley here. I forgot the fancy accent. Chadley writes, will there be cap space left over after all this is said and done? And he goes on, and this is before the event happened. He goes, what is the real value of Schlemko, and is Schlemko a real person? I can confirm David Schlemko is in fact a real person. His value is about $900,000 this year and $600,000 next year because he's been bought out.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Do you think there's enough cap space right now after Connor's told us what we have left to sign the guys that we need to sign?
Connor said there is, so yes.
Yeah, we're going with our numbers guy. He never lets us down. So next one comes from Nicholas Hankins, and he asks us, can Morin make it through waivers if we don't keep him as a 7th or 8th defenseman? This is the first of a few questions here, so we'll kind of go down the line. So will Morin make it through waivers, John, if we send him back down through waivers?
That's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if someone picked him up. Would you?
Wouldn't either. Not at all. I think that someone could take a flyer on him.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think it's a risk. If you value Morin enough to not want to lose him, especially for nothing, you really want to second guess sending him down, I guess. I didn't even think of that when I said that in the first case about sending him to the AHL.
Yeah. It's a tough decision for sure, and I don't envy Chuck Fletcher by any means for that one.
No.
I still think he makes the opening night roster. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So the second question from Nick comes, and he asks, who will be the third line winger? This is a good one. This is interesting.
Yeah, it is, because I think we have separate answers on this.
I think we do too. We might, but I also don't know exactly where you stand on this, but I'm going to let you go first, and we'll see how this goes.
Now, keep in mind that the off-season, there's plenty of time, so something could happen. I'm going based off of what is in the organization now. So I'm not going to, take a guess that we're going to trade for somebody in August or whatever. I think it's going to be Morgan Frost. And I started to go back and forth between him, Farabee, and Ratcliffe. People say Rubtsov. I don't know. He's in a different spot for me. After that developmental camp, seeing how he's put on some weight, he weighs more than Farabee, and that shootout goal. I know it's developmental camp, but I don't care.
Filthy.
I think he's going to be third. I think he's going to be the third line winger, Morgan Frost.
I definitely could see that, and I wouldn't be upset by any means if that were the case. The only thing I'm weighing more so is the fact that Farabee is a natural winger, whereas Morgan Frost is a natural center. Doesn't mean Morgan Frost can't play wing. I just think that putting Frost on the wing, if we want him to end up as a center, might be a tad counterproductive. And I think they're almost at the same point in their development, honestly. Like, I think they're both right on the cusp of being ready. I think that Frost could benefit a little more from some time in the AHL as a center, centering a line of a little more established vets in North America here. Whereas Farabee could as well. I think Ratcliffe is like that 1B type tier, very close to being the 1A type tier, but Farabee kind of pushes him back down because he's a winger as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, The one thing I'd like to say as far as Frost and center versus winger, I feel like the Flyers are going to start to recognize that Frost is going to have to play wing. I mean, you've got Sean Couturier, you've got Kevin Hayes signed for quite some time, and then you have Nolan Patrick. He's not going to be your fourth line winger. So I'm wondering if they're just going to go, fourth line center, sorry. I'm wondering if they're just going to be like, you know what, he's going to have to play wing. So even if he's in Lehigh Valley, it makes you think maybe they just put him on the wing.
That's not a bad way to think about it, too. I didn't really take that into account. Again, John,
you can only have so many centers.
It's true. And, I mean, let's be honest, the top three lines have their centers filled.
Right.
Once again, John Gove changes my mind. And so, I guess, he's got two more questions, Nick does. He asks, will the Flyers make the playoffs? Simple yes or no. Do they make the playoffs this year, John?
Yes.
Agreed. Last question he poses, were the improvements that the Flyers have made improve us, keep us equal, or move back in the Metro in comparison to the other moves made by Metropolitan teams? Like, the moves we've made so far, where does that put us compared to the other Metro teams?
That's a really good question.
It is.
I think that there's been enough, like, certain teams might have moved up, but a few other teams might have taken a step back, like Columbus. Look at Columbus now. You know, they lost a lot of key pieces. So I think that it puts us ahead of where we were last year. Just don't know how far ahead.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh got worse. I mean, they just signed Brandon Tanev to, what, a 5-6 year deal?
Yeah. Cheap, but still.
Yeah, that's their big signing today. And they traded Phil Kessel to Arizona. Mm-hmm. They got Galchenyuk. I think Galchenyuk will be good. You pair him with Malkin, anybody really could put up points with him. But I think the Flyers made the steps in the right direction at least, and I think they're better than they were entering into the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the next question comes from Austin Provenzano, and I apologize, Austin, if I mispronounced that. He asks, the Flyers have 8 defensemen, and Fletcher could still clear some cap space. Who is most likely to get traded?
Ghost.
Agreed. He's got the most value.
Yep. Until we start next season, I'm going to keep saying Shane Gostisbehere.
I hate the fact that we have to keep saying that because I like him, but it's the most logical answer to that type of question.
Right. No one wants Robert Haig. I'm sorry, everybody.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And then the next question comes from Cliff Waddling. He asks, of the top 3 prospects, which kid projects to be a first-line goal scorer? He also adds, I've heard a friend who is high on Ratcliffe, so then who could be the best all-around among him, Frost, and Farabee? So, who...
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, so Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee, and Isaac Ratcliffe. Yep. Of those 3, who's going to be the first-line goal scorer?
Ratcliffe.
Okay.
It's going to take. I think he's going to take some time, but I think that he has the most goal-scoring ability, and there's this size and creativeness that he has. It's just a deadly combo.
All right. I'm going to counter that, and I'm going to say Farabee, because I just think he's going to polish his game, and when he does, it's going to be outstanding. Then enough. He asks, who could be the best all-around out of those 3?
Frost,
agreed. The guy's got the tools. Good God. He puts them together. That's lethal.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great playmaker. He can score. He's smart. Good leader in the locker room. Yeah.
Yeah. And third question, is there another prospect that might jump up to the first line or top pairing on the defense that you can think of right now that's in the pipeline?
Cam York.
Yes.
Top D pairing. The other ones, I don't think any of them are first line potential, at least right now. I mean, obviously things can change, but Cam York can definitely be a part of that top pairing.
Yeah. I think if we're talking all around offense or defense, someone reaching the pinnacle, that's Cam York. Offense, It's going to be tough when discounting Farabee, Frost, and Ratcliffe. That could
For
be
sure.
your top line down the line. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So next question comes from Patrick Butler, and you've already really answered this somewhat. He asks, will Morgan Frost make the team this year?
Well, my answer is yes.
Yes, I think he does too. Injuries happen, unforeseen circumstances happen. Morgan Frost could be the guy that call up, and he could really make an impact.
See, but you call that making the team? I'm thinking more along the lines of a training camp preseason, like to start off the year.
Yeah, and I see where you're coming from. I think, making the team out of camp holds more value than, like, making it because of an injury. But, like, regardless, he still made it. I guess that's kind of my mindset. So he could make the team and make an impression and be like, you can't send me down now. I'm too good.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a weird thought about kind of how teams go about handling injuries when they call people up. I feel like unless a younger guy is absolutely lighting the AHL on fire, they'll keep them down and bring up like an older guy, like an Abe Kubel.
I agree with that. I really do.
Not saying that's what they should do. I just feel like Morgan Frost's opportunity to make the team at any point dwindle if he doesn't make it at the beginning of the year, because I think that when it comes to injuries, especially if we're talking like short-term injuries, they'll bring up a more experienced player.
Yeah, and I think it benefits him because they bring up the more experienced player. He knows the league. He knows what it takes to succeed in the league, and it's just an easier transition for him because when you think about it, he's up there for a short amount of time to fill in for an injury, and then when the guy's back in the roster, he's back down, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think Morgan Frost, it would be more of like a call up in the middle of the year if like the team's sucking and they need a change and he's playing well, so they're going to replace him. It's not really an injury call up.
Yeah, that's the spark that they might need to try to reignite a run to the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah. So the next question comes from Austin Provenzano again. He says, Fletcher and AV clearly have a plan in mind, and it seems like they're building from the back end with veterans to teach the young guys. It makes sense with the Niskanen and Broad trades and adding Nick Schultz to the staff. Do we agree?
You start.
I do agree. I think when you look at the career of Nick Schultz, he had a very good career. It wasn't himself really, I guess, with the Flyers. He played well when we first acquired him, but, it was the back end of his career, and there's obviously a slide involved with that. But, like, bringing in guys like Niskanen and Braun, I think, add that veteran presence and add a more solid veteran presence than a guy like McDonald, plus the playoff experience. I mean, Niskanen's won 2 cups with 2 separate teams. Braun's been involved with multiple San Jose teams that have had plenty of success in the playoffs. Aside from a Stanley Cup, you're bringing in the key pieces that you need to make a franchise that could sustain long runs in the playoffs, make a run at the Cup potentially if there's enough talent to surround them. I think these moves are evident of a team that wants to succeed at that next level, and I like them. Production-wise, Niskanen's not going to get you the 40 to 50 points he used to. Braun has always been a stay-at-home defensive defenseman, but you need those. You need those kinds of guys that are going to play those roles, and I think bringing in those guys plus the addition of Nick Schultz just helps. Nick Schultz hasn't been out of the game for too long. He's still got a fresh mind for it, so I think it's a positive altogether.
Well, you said it all, my man. I completely agree with you. You brought up some great points.
Sweet. All right, then. Let's move on. We've got Flyer Doug 88. He asks, who do you think has the best chance of being the third-line winger, either a prospect or a free agent? So, different spin on a question that's already been asked. I guess, are we filling this hole through free agency, or are we going to turn to our prospects for this one, John?
Well, I mean, to be fair, he asked this question 4 days ago. I mean, I think that if they were going to fill this role for free agency, it would have happened today. It didn't, so I think they're going to go prospect.
Agreed. I think they do too, and I think they've got plenty to choose from.
Right. Or trade.
Or trade as well, yes. Mike Garouz. Garouz, it could be pronounced Giroux, so maybe it's just different spelling. asks us, out of Ratcliffe, Frost, and Farabee, who do you think makes it out of camp and who fits better next to Nolan Patrick on that third line?
Yeah, he throws in that little wrinkle there at the end, huh?
It's a lot of the same kind of questions, but with like different little wrinkles in them, you know?
Yeah, I'm still going with Frost. And honestly, I don't know who fits better with Patrick. I kind of have to see. I don't like making those predictions, man. I mean, because like you can pick one aspect of one player and be like, oh, well, that's why they'd fit better with Nolan Patrick. Sorry, kind of like shut down there for a second. That's why they'd fit better with Nolan Patrick. But then you could pick another aspect of a different player and make the argument. So I'm going with Frost.
Right. I think you're right. I think fitting next to Nolan Patrick, I think it would be Farabee, just because I am high on Farabee. That's my guy, I guess you could say. And being a winger, I think would open up a lot of opportunities for both of them with Patrick's creativeness, Farabee being a beautiful goal scorer. But like you said, making these predictions are really tough because Nolan Patrick's still a young guy as well, as are those three he mentioned. Time's going to tell. We'll see. So the next question then comes from Cowboy Jerry, #Cowboy Jerry. He goes, yes, only first days of camp, but Frost seems determined to making the opening day roster, and he wants to know our thoughts on that. I mean, let's be honest.
We've said it a few times.
Yeah, that goal that everybody's talking about on Twitter is perfect evidence. He's determined. There's no way.
Oh, yeah.
He's a pro now. His goal is to make the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, and he understands that the success he had in the OHL paints a bigger target and makes the microscope even more zoomed in on him. And he's making the most out of this opportunity.
Absolutely. And we can only hope for the best and for him to keep lighting it up like he has.
For sure.
So then the next question comes from Art of Grit. They ask, what do you think the Flyers could get for Mr. Robert Haig? Nothing.
A bag of cashews and a bowl of hummus.
Roasted red pepper hummus.
Yeah, the Sabra kind.
Yeah.
The one that, like, when you're not really too sure if you should buy it because the expiration date was yesterday.
Yeah.
That one.
The Sam's Club version.
Right. It's only good with pretzel crisps because it provides a little bit of salt to it and gets rid of like that soury, moldy thing going on.
Yeah, you eat it with the Sam's Club crackers and it just tastes like nothing.
So essentially, Art of Grit, nothing. I don't think they could get anything for Haig. I don't even know if people would give them a 6th round pick.
Lord, I don't even know either. Haig doesn't hold much value. That's why we've always said that Gostisbehere is the guy on the blue line that they're going to trade if they want anything of value.
Right, and they're just better off holding on to him instead of trading him for nothing. You know,
if he's deployed the right way, he could be a Brandon Manning. Brandon Manning wasn't deployed the right way, so everybody hated him because he soaked up minutes. I think he could be a good 7th defenseman.
Yeah.
So our next question comes from No Senor Whitworth, again, with his second question here. And he asks us, pretend that you see the future, and you know that Morgan Frost is the third-line winger when the season starts. Give me a description of why this is going to happen, since obviously I can't be certain. Does he think like we're certain and we can actually see the future here?
Man, if only that was true.
Let me just whip my crystal ball out real quick. It's in here somewhere. Looking through the filing cabinet. Sorry, pal, I can't find it. But I can tell you that Morgan Frost will make this team eventually.
Yeah, and you know why I think it's going to happen? Because, you know what, Farabee is another great prospect, and Farabee could deserve to be in that role. But I think that you also have to play to the fan base. And Frost has been a prospect that the fan base has followed closely for the last 2 seasons that have really grown to love. And I think that there's a little bit more of a connection there with Frost than there is Farabee. So I do think that if it's tight enough between the two, that'll have an effect on it, where it's almost like, well, what will pique more of the fans' interest. And I think both of them would, but there might be a little bit more there for Frost.
Yeah, people have gotten to follow Frost for 2 years in the OHL. People followed Farabee for 1 year in college. Was it a great 1 year for Farabee? Absolutely. Freshman of the year. Was it a great 2 years for Morgan Frost? 100%. I
Right.
think it's, you know, they're at, I shouldn't say different stages, but like, could Farabee benefit more than Frost from one more year? Maybe in the AHL.
Yeah.
But that's what training camp's for. We'll see what these guys bring to the table against some actual pros in the NHL or AHL. And, you know, that's what the decision's probably going to be based off of more so than what we're seeing now in development camp.
For sure.
Yeah. So our last question here comes from Kev Walkman. He says he's a big supporter of trading Nolan Patrick for a top 2 or 3 defenseman and a pick in order to make space for Mr. Morgan Frost. And then he asks us what our thoughts are on that move.
So the Q&A session is done, yeah?
We're done. Yeah, Kev, no, don't stop it. That's
Sorry,
dumb.
Kev. Yeah,
all-
I mean, listen, you're allowed to have your own opinion. I'm also allowed to not respect it.
Yeah, we appreciate the question, don't get me wrong, but also understand that that's a resounding no. We'll never trade Nolan Patrick.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, let me give you an actual answer because I wanted to get my point across. But I think that there are enough young defensemen there that can become the top 2, 3 guys, and there's some that are already top 2, 3 guys where it's just not necessary. It would just be a stupid move at this point.
It's instant gratification, and Nolan
Right.
Patrick's a bit of a slow burner, but once he develops, I really do think Patrick's going to be a very good NHL player.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so no, one more time. But that ends our question and answer segment, our Q&A segment. Folks, it also ends this episode of the Pod Street Bullies. John Gove, where, if we do wish, can we find you on social media platforms?
You can find me on Twitter at John P. Gove. All my articles are at Philly Sports Network. I've been writing the articles about some of the guys we just recently drafted. I'm going in reverse order. I've done 7, and the first 6-round draft pick. It's really fun diving into these guys, so I hope you just take an opportunity and read them. I also want to plug one more thing. We have an Instagram.
Yeah, we do.
And me and Derek are not the one doing it.
We aren't.
Currently, my wife is doing it.
And
We're
may
just
I
employing
add,
people all over the place.
she's been doing a phenomenal job of upkeeping our Instagram page.
Yeah. So if you're on Instagram, please go find it. I'm assuming that the username has something to do with the Pod Street Bullies, and it's easy to find.
Pod ST Bullies.
There you go. See, you know.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
why I have you around.
That's why I've got my phone on me right now.
So, yeah, that's all I got to say.
And I am Derek Bob. You can find me at PuckBobPSN on Twitter. You can find my work on Philadelphia Sports Network. Folks, want to point out one more quick thing. Over the weekend, we had one of the elite prospects in the Flyers system don some of our incredibly stunning gear at development camp. Mr. Isaac Ratcliffe was donning a Philly Sports Network t-shirt this weekend, and if we could show you the photo right now, we would. Either head over to Philly Sports Network's page, or Jamie Basco, who actually got him to do it, didn't even really get him to do it. He put it on. He was just like, yeah, I'll wear this, and threw it on and was like, take a picture of me. But Isaac, if you're listening, any family members, whatever, thank you. That's phenomenal. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Anyways, that's where you can find both of us. This has been the Pod Street Bullies episode 20-something. Don't care to divulge into that. But thank you for listening. Visit us on iTunes, write us a review, leave us a cute little message saying how much you love us. We would really appreciate that. 5 stars, obviously. But until next week, we will see you guys. Have a wonderful week ahead. And as always, let's go Flyers.
Bye now.